Getting to kind of the job side of this, I do have a fair amount of concern about this. On one hand, I think comparative advantage is a very powerful tool. If I look at coding, programming, which is one area where AI is making the most progress, what we are finding is we are not far from a world, I think we'll be there in 3 to 6 months, where AI is writing 90% of the code. And then in 12 months, we may be in a world where AI is writing essentially all of the code.
In November 2024, the CEO of one of the most advanced AI companies on Earth made a prediction that should have dominated headlines for weeks. Dario Amodei, head of Anthropic, said that artificial intelligence could eliminate half of all entry-level white-collar jobs within 5 years. Not someday, 5 years. That means by 2029, the career ladder you're trying to climb may not exist anymore. The skills you spent years acquiring may be worthless. The job security you thought you had may evaporate. And if you think this doesn't apply to you, that you're too skilled, too specialized, too essential to be replaced, then you fundamentally misunderstand what's coming. 500 years ago, a disgraced Italian diplomat wrote a book about power. Not power as it should be, power as it actually works. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli, and his insights about fortune, adaptation, and survival have never been more relevant than they are right now. Because AI isn't just changing the job market, it's creating a new class of poor people. And Machiavelli can tell you exactly who they'll be and how to make sure you're not one of them. Most people know Machiavelli as a name for ruthlessness. Machiavellian means cunning, manipulative, amoral. But few know the circumstances under which he wrote The Prince. He wrote it as a job application from a man who had lost everything. In August 1512, Spanish forces defeated the citizen militia that Machiavelli had personally organized. The Florentine Republic collapsed. The Medici family, who had been exiled for 18 years, returned to power. Within weeks, Machiavelli was dismissed from his position as second chancellor, a role he'd held for 14 years. 4 months later, he was falsely implicated in an anti-Medici conspiracy. He was arrested and tortured. The strappado. Your hands are tied behind your back. You're hoisted into the air by your bound wrists and then dropped repeatedly until your shoulders dislocate. Machiavelli endured this. In March 1513, he was released during an amnesty, broken but alive. He was exiled to his family's small farm, 7 miles outside Florence. The man who had negotiated with kings and popes, who had shaped Florentine foreign policy, who had built an entire military from scratch, was now a nobody, a farmer, irrelevant. Here's what he wrote to his friend Francesco Vettori. "When evening comes, I return home and go into my study, and at the door I take off my daytime dress, covered in mud and dirt, and put on royal and curriel robes." Chapter 25 of The Prince contains Machiavelli's most famous metaphor. He compares fortune, fate, luck, circumstances beyond your control to a flooding river. "I compare her to one of those raging rivers which, when in flood, overflows the plains, sweeping away trees and buildings, bearing away the soil from place to place. Everything flees before the flood. Everyone yields to its fury, and nowhere can repel it." But Machiavelli doesn't end there. As for AI, Machiavelli argues that we can only control half of our lives. The other half is determined by fortune, unpredictable events, luck, or chance. During the day, a peasant; at night, a scholar in conversation with the ancients. The Prince was written as an attempt to regain favor with the Medici. He dedicated it first to Giuliano de' Medici, then after Giuliano's death to Lorenzo de' Medici the Younger. The tragic irony, Lorenzo reportedly ignored the book entirely. A story says he was distracted when another petitioner arrived with a gift of hunting dogs, Machiavelli's masterwork of political philosophy, dismissed in favor of dogs. This is the man who wrote about power, not from the throne, from the mud, a man who understood displacement because he had been displaced.
Yet when the weather is good, people can prepare dams and dikes to control the flood. Fortune shows her power where virtue and wisdom do not prepare to resist her, and directs her fury where she knows that no dikes or embankments are ready to hold her. Fortune destroys those who didn't prepare, not those who couldn't prepare, those who didn't. Italy was devastated, Machiavelli argues, because it was without embankments and without dikes, no preparation when preparation was possible. This brings us to Machiavelli's central concept, virtù. Not virtue in the moral sense. Virtù means the ability to adapt, to respond, to vary your conduct as circumstances demand. A ruler of virtù is capable of varying his conduct from good to evil and back again as fortune and circumstances dictate. Virtù isn't about being good, it's about being effective. It's about reading the situation and responding appropriately, whether that requires kindness or cruelty, caution or boldness, tradition or innovation. Machiavelli's crucial observation: those princes who are utterly dependent on fortune come to grief when their fortune changes. Translation: if your success depends entirely on circumstances staying the same, you will fail when circumstances change. And circumstances always change. McKinsey Global Institute: 30% of current US work hours could be automated by 2030. World Economic Forum: 41% of employers intend to reduce workforce due to AI within 5 years. Goldman Sachs: 300 million full-time jobs globally will be affected by generative AI. The flood is coming. The question is whether you've built your embankments. Between 1811 and 1816, a movement swept England that has become synonymous with anti-technology resistance, the Luddites. But here's what most people get wrong. The Luddites weren't ignorant villagers afraid of machines. They were highly skilled, well-trained middle-class workers, framework knitters and weavers who had spent years mastering their craft. Professor Kevin Binfield: the Luddites themselves were totally fine with machines. They confined their attacks to manufacturers who used machines in what they called a fraudulent and deceitful manner to get around standard labor practices. The Luddites weren't against technology, they were against being replaced. They were knowledge workers of their era, people whose expertise was suddenly worth nothing. Sound familiar? The British government responded with overwhelming force. 14,000 soldiers deployed, more than Wellington had in the Peninsula War. The Frame-Breaking Act of 1812 made machine destruction punishable by death. Many Luddites were hanged, others were transported to Australia. The movement was crushed, and the machines kept coming. Here's the Machiavellian lesson. The Luddites had legitimate grievances. They were right that their livelihoods were being destroyed. They were right that the new system was unjust. But being right didn't save them. Having grievances didn't save them. They lacked virtù, the ability to adapt to the new order, and fortune destroyed them. The first industrial revolution required 1 to 2 generations, 20 to 40 years, for new jobs to emerge that replaced what was lost. But here's the hopeful statistic. 60% of American workers today are employed in occupations that didn't exist in 1940. The jobs exist, but only for those who survived the transition.
Let me tell you exactly who will become the new poor. It's not who you think. A Federal Reserve Bank study from this year found that computer and mathematical occupations, approximately 80% AI exposed, saw the steepest unemployment increases. The correlation was clear. Higher AI exposure equals higher unemployment increase since 2022. Software developers aged 22 to 25 saw employment decline nearly 20% from their late 2022 peak. Big tech new graduate hiring is down 25% in 2023 compared to 2024. 40% of white-collar job seekers this year failed to secure interviews. This is the counterintuitive finding. White-collar workers face faster displacement than blue-collar workers. AI can replace 53% of market research analyst tasks, 67% of sales representatives' tasks, but plumbers, electricians, carpenters, among the least threatened occupations. A 2024 French study found that working in an automatable job is associated with a 3 percentage point increase in probability of mental health disorders, not from actual job loss, from fear of job loss, from expectation of required skills changes, from loss of identity tied to expertise that's becoming worthless. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately. The new poor won't be those without education. They won't be those without credentials. They'll be those who lack virtù, the ability to adapt when fortune changes. Specifically, they'll be people who refuse to learn new tools when their old tools become obsolete, define their identity by a specific job rather than transferable capabilities, assume that past success guarantees future security, wait for institutions to save them instead of saving themselves. Fortune shows her power where virtù and wisdom do not prepare to resist her. The flood doesn't care about your degree, doesn't care about your experience, doesn't care about your credentials. It cares only about whether you built embankments. Machiavelli didn't just analyze power, he gave instructions for acquiring it. Here's how to apply his framework to AI displacement. First, understand that virtù means flexibility, not expertise. McKinsey found that more than 70% of skills sought by employers today are used in both automatable and non-automatable work. Your skills aren't worthless, but where and how you deploy them must change. The person who says, "I'm a copywriter," will be replaced. The person who says, "I understand persuasion and can use any tool to achieve it," will adapt. Second, move towards what AI cannot do. Nurse practitioners, 52% growth by 2033. Skilled trades, among the least threatened, highest demand. Complex problem solving in ambiguous situations. Emotional intelligence in high-stakes contexts. Strategic judgment requiring broad contextual understanding. Physical work in unstructured environments. AI can process, AI can pattern match, AI can generate. AI cannot navigate genuine ambiguity, cannot provide human presence, cannot operate in physical chaos. Move towards the irreplaceable. Build embankments now, during calm weather. Machiavelli's entire point was that preparation must happen before the flood. This means learning AI tools while you still have a job, not after you've lost it. Building a secondary income stream before your primary one disappears. Developing relationships and networks before you desperately need them. The time to prepare is when you don't urgently need to, because when you urgently need to, it's already too late. Fourth, apply occasione.
seize the opportunity that disruption creates. Machiavelli analyzed rulers who rose from nothing: Moses, Romulus, Cyrus, Theseus. His conclusion: these opportunities made these men's fortunes, and it was because of their remarkable qualities that they were able to recognize and grasp the opportunities. Virtù plus occasione equals success. Either alone is worthless. AI isn't just destroying opportunities, it's creating them. New roles, new industries, new possibilities, but only for those with virtù to recognize and grasp them. Those without virtù will see only the destruction. Those with virtù will see what can be built in the aftermath. Machiavelli's end was tragic. The man who wrote the handbook on power never regained it. The Medici used him when convenient, then discarded him. The restored Republic rejected him for his Medici connections. He died in 1527, caught between worlds that both refused him. But here's what matters. He saw clearly. He analyzed correctly. He told the truth about how power actually works, even when that truth was uncomfortable. Fortune shows her power where virtù and wisdom do not prepare to resist her. AI will create a new class of poor people. That is happening right now. Entry-level jobs evaporating, knowledge work being automated, the comfortable middle dissolving. The question isn't whether this transformation will occur, it's which side of it you'll be on. Machiavelli offers no comfort, no guarantee that virtue will be rewarded or that the good will triumph. He offers only clarity. Fortune favors the prepared, the adaptive, those with virtù. The flood is coming. It's been coming for years now. You can see it on the horizon, the AI capabilities doubling, the job postings shifting, the skills requirements transforming. You cannot stop it. You cannot vote it away. You cannot protest it into reversal. You can only build your embankments or drown. Machiavelli's final wisdom: it is better to be impetuous than cautious, because fortune is a woman, and if you wish to control her, you must treat her roughly. Uncomfortable language for our era, but the meaning stands. Fortune rewards those who act, who take risks, who move before movement is forced upon them. The cautious, the comfortable, the waiting, these are the ones fortune destroys. Don't be cautious. Don't wait for permission. Don't assume the world owes you a place. Build your virtù, prepare your embankments, and when the flood comes, and it will come, you'll be one of those still standing, ready to build something new in the aftermath.